Welcome to The Deep Dive. Today, we're heading somewhere really, really special. A journey, you could say, to the far, far north. Imagine a world just full of snow, wind whipping around, but also these incredible green skies, reindeer everywhere, and people wearing colors so bright they just leap out against the winter white.
It's a powerful image.
It really is. Have you ever actually heard of the Sámi people? They are the only recognized indigenous people of Europe. Today, we're going to explore their deep, deep connection to the Arctic, their amazing culture, and, well, their story of survival and strength.
Yes, the Sami. A fascinating people. Their homeland, it's called Sápmi.
Sápmi, right.
And it's vast. It stretches right across the northern bits of Norway, Sweden, Finland, and even over into northwest Russia.
Wow, 4 countries.
4 countries.
Yeah.
And this land,
Yeah.
the tundras, the forests, the frozen rivers, it's not just scenery for them. It's not a backdrop. It's like a living partner. Everything the Sami use and do, their homes, their clothes, their food, even their very unique music, it all comes straight from the land. And in a really profound way, it all goes back to it eventually.
That sounds beautiful, but also incredibly harsh. I mean, most of us, we complain about a few cold days in winter. How do people not just get by, but actually live there? It's extremely cold, isn't it?
Well,
Dark.
We're talking places where the sun barely shows its face for months.
Oh, you're absolutely right. It is extreme. In winter, they have the polar night. The sun might just skim the horizon or not rise at all for weeks, depending how far north you are.
This darkness.
Pretty much. But the Sami, they've learned over millennia how to live with this darkness, maybe even dance with it. They found their rhythm in it. Their skill in handling the cold is, well, it's legendary.
How so?
Take their clothing, for example. Traditionally, it's made from reindeer hides or densely woven wool, incredibly warm, obviously. But it's more than that. It's deeply symbolic.
Symbolic.
Yes, they have a traditional outfit called the gakti. The gakti.
Okay. And it's stunning. Rich, bright colors, reds, blues, yellows, greens, often in geometric patterns. But here's the thing. Each pattern on a gakti isn't just for looks.
No.
No, it tells a story. It shows the wearer's family, their tribe, the specific area they come from.
Really? So their clothes are like a map of who they are?
Exactly. Like wearing your identity, your history. And then there are their boots, special boots called nuftahat.
Nuftahat, got it.
They have this very distinctive pointed toe.
Why pointed?
Well, that's perfectly designed to fit snugly into the bindings of traditional skis or snowshoes. Makes movement much easier.
That makes sense. So it's not just about practicality, though, is it? You said it's artistry, identity, woven into every stitch.
Precisely. Function and beauty hand in hand.
And how do they get those boots, the nuftahat, warm enough? I mean, for that kind of brutal cold, is it some special fur? Or?
Well, yes, they are made from reindeer fur, which is incredibly insulating in itself. Reindeer hair is hollow, traps air very well. But here's a detail that's just brilliantly simple. It really shows their wisdom about nature.
What is it?
They often stuff their boots with dry grass,
Yeah.
hay or sedge grass.
Grass inside the boots.
Yep, for extra insulation. It's this ancient, simple trick. It creates an air pocket, traps warmth right next to the foot.
Wow. Nature literally as their socks.
You could say that. It's lightweight.
Yeah.
It's easy to find in the summer and dry, and it works incredibly well.
That's genuinely remarkable. It's not about fancy tech, is it? It's about deep, deep knowledge applied simply.
Exactly. And that same ingenuity, that same thinking, it applies to their homes too. Traditionally, many lived in portable tents called lavu.
Lavu, like a teepee.
Similar in shape, yes, cone-shaped. But they're designed specifically for Arctic conditions. Mobile, easy to put up and take down, which is crucial for a herding lifestyle, and remarkably warm inside.
How do they keep them warm?
Usually a central fire, with a clever opening at the top for smoke to escape, but designed to retain heat. Imagine being inside a lavu. You'd have the comforting smell of a birchwood fire, the soft crackle of the logs. And then you step outside, and there's just the crisp crunch of snow under your feet.
Yeah.
And maybe, if you're lucky, the northern lights just dancing silently overhead.
That sounds magical.
It is. Life there, traditionally, it wasn't about, the 9-to-5 grind, coffee machines, office blocks.
No, definitely not.
It's about being deeply connected to your environment, your community, the animals, the stories that hold everything together. So we really hope by the end of this deep dive today, even if you've never felt a snowflake land on your face.
Which many of our listeners haven't.
Right. We hope you'll still get a sense of that cold wind blowing across Sápmi, feel it in your bones maybe, but also, crucially, feel the warmth of the Sami spirit in your heart.
That sounds like a rhythm of life, almost completely the opposite of what most of us know. It makes perfect sense then why their culture feels so alive, so vibrant. Even in, what seems like such a frozen, challenging land, it's actually born from it, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not despite the environment, it's because of it, in many ways. There's a core Sami belief that sums it up beautifully.
What's that?
They say, nature is not outside us, it is within us.
Powerful.
And they don't just say it, they live it every single day. Whether they're fishing through holes in the ice on frozen lakes or gathering those precious few berries during the very short Arctic summer.
Right. The summer must be intense.
It is, in its own way. Or even singing to the wind, which they sometimes do. Their whole way of being is built on this foundation of deep respect for nature. It's not about dominating it.
Not control.
No, not control. Respect. Partnership, almost.
That really is such a stark contrast to, our urban lives. Traffic, screens everywhere, wanting everything instantly. It really makes me wonder what vital wisdom we might have lost by putting so much distance between ourselves and the natural world.
That's a really important question to ask. Their culture isn't just about how do we survive the cold. It's about thriving by becoming a fully integrated part of that Arctic world. Yes. They understand implicitly that to truly live well in that kind of place, you have to adapt to it, learn from it, honor it. You can't just force it to bend to your will.
It won't bend.
Exactly. It won't. That deep, integrated relationship with their environment, that's the real power source behind their culture's strength and resilience.
Okay, we've touched on their spirit, their connection to the land, and a bit about the incredible clothing, like the gakti and the nufta hat. But let's dig a bit deeper into their practical, everyday life. What other ways of living, what other innovations have let them master these, frankly, extreme conditions? What might surprise us about their daily survival?
Right. Well, when you're talking temperatures dropping to minus 30, maybe even minus 40 Celsius.
Minus 40.
Oh, yes. Just getting by isn't really an option, is it? You have to have mastered the cold. And the Sami are, without doubt, absolute experts. We mentioned the gakti, their traditional dress. It's often made from reindeer hide, incredibly warm, or sometimes densely woven wool, layered up for maximum insulation. But the patterns, those intricate designs.
The ones that tell stories.
Exactly. They're often hand-stitched. Think about the skill, the patience that takes. And they communicate so much family, region, sometimes even marital status. It's a garment that literally wraps you in your identity and your history.
It's amazing how their clothing does so much more than just keep them warm. It's communication, it's heritage. Now, you mentioned something earlier that really caught my attention, something surprising about their comfort levels. You said they almost prefer winter. That seems counterintuitive to many of us who dread the cold months.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But yes, it often surprises people from outside their culture. Many Sami, especially those living more traditional lives, genuinely report feeling more comfortable, more at home in the deep, harsh winter than in the relatively mild Arctic summer.
Why is that?
Well, think about it. For them, winter brings a kind of stability and clarity. The ground freezes solid. Swamps, rivers, lakes, they all become highways.
Travel becomes easier.
Much easier across those vast, snow-covered landscapes. Plus, the annoying biting insects of the short summer, gone.
Good point.
The world becomes silent, crisp, predictable in a way. Their tools, their homes, their whole rhythm of life has evolved over centuries to fit the snow, the ice, the cold. So, winter, for the Sami, it's not the enemy.
It's home.
In a very profound way, yes. It's home.
Yeah.
It provides clear pathways, reliable hunting for certain animals, and it's the crucial season for managing the reindeer herds.
That's a complete flip of how most of the world sees winter. For so many, it's a time of struggle, of staying indoors. But for them, it brings a certain ease, a natural order. It really just underscores how deeply, deeply adapted they are.
It absolutely does. And that adaptation, it carries through to how they move and work. Traditionally, and you still see it used for ceremonial occasions, they use reindeer-drawn sleds called Pulks.
Pulks? Okay, I'm picturing Santa's sleigh. Is that right?
Not quite. Think smaller, much lower to the ground. A pulk is designed to glide really effortlessly over snow and ice. Very efficient for crossing those huge frozen landscapes.
Right.
They pack them with children, food, tools. They're basically their Arctic caravans. Lightweight, flexible.
So a design perfectly engineered for snow. Are they still a common sight, or have things like snowmobiles taken over?
It's a mix today. Many Samis, especially those involved in large-scale herding, do use snowmobiles now. They're faster, more efficient for covering long distances quickly to check on the herds.
Makes sense.
But the polka, the reindeer sled, it remains a really cherished part of their culture and their ceremonies. It's a physical link to their past, a symbol of their heritage. And the skills involved, handling the reindeer, managing the sled, those skills are still passed down.
It's good to hear. In their daily work, you mentioned reindeer herding is central.
Oh, intensely so. For many communities, reindeer herding isn't just a job, it's a whole way of life. It dictates the rhythm of the year, the seasonal migrations following ancient routes, moving the family and the herd to find the best grazing as the Arctic landscape changes. Fishing is also vital, as is crafting.
Constantly moving with the land, not trying to force it. And what about their tools, their food? How does that reflect this deep connection?
Their tools are just beautiful examples of resourcefulness and incredible craftsmanship, often handmade from bone, antler, birchwood materials, readily available right there in their environment.
Using what's around them.
Exactly. And these aren't just purely functional items. They're often intricately carved, decorated. It's like a philosophy of functional art.
Functional art. I like that.
When a Sami craftsman makes something, maybe a knife handle or a tool for working with reindeer hide, it's built to last. It embodies generations of inherited wisdom about materials, about design. Nothing is wasted. Every part of an animal, every useful plant is utilized.
That makes perfect sense. In an environment where every resource is precious, things have to be durable, multi-purpose, made with care. It's such a contrast to our sort of disposable culture today.
It really is. And their food preservation reflects that same principle. Smoked reindeer meat, dried fish, berries gathered and preserved from the summer. These are staples.
How do they preserve them?
Traditionally, methods like drying, smoking, salting, or simply using the natural cold of winter. Everything is stored meticulously. Waste isn't just frowned upon. It's almost unthinkable when getting food takes so much effort and knowledge. You know, the idea of a modern refrigerator is almost comical when your entire world is a giant natural freezer for half the year.
Huh. True.
Their whole approach to food is built on this deep ecological knowledge and, again, that profound respect for every single resource.
It's just incredible how everything, clothing, tools, food, travel, it's all so intimately woven into the fabric of their environment. You've really brought it to life. I can almost, feel the texture of that reindeer fur and hear the snow crunching.
That's wonderful to hear, because their life, while it might seem simple by some modern standards, is actually profoundly thoughtful. It's deeply tuned in to the Earth's rhythms, and it speaks volumes about resilience, about sustainability. It's not just about surviving the Arctic, it's about a rich, meaningful way of existing within it.
So as we're sort of standing here, metaphorically speaking, wrapped in that reindeer fur, hearing the snow, I'm struck by something you mentioned earlier, the silence. But you said even the silence has a sound. It sings, it breathes. And that sound, that unique core of Sami's spiritual expression, you called it the Joik.
Ah, yes, the Joik. It's much more than just a song or music as we might typically think of it in the West.
Okay.
It is fundamentally a spiritual expression, a very unique form of vocal art that connects the singer directly to the world around them. What makes a Joik so different is you don't just sing about something.
No?
No, you Joik it. You Joik a person. You Joik an animal, a mountain, a river. You can even Joik a feeling or a memory.
You Joik it.
Yes. It's sung as if the subject of the Joik, the person, the place, the reindeer, is right there, present with you. You're bringing it into being, in a sense, through your voice, through your intention.
So it's less like telling a story about something and more like invoking it, embodying it through sound, giving it presence.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. It's a powerful act of invocation, of connection. Think about it. In a world where your feet are walking through deep snow for months, where the cold can be relentless, where that polar night stretches on.
Yeah, it could feel very isolating.
It could. And joiking, it becomes this essential way to warm the soul, to keep spirits up. It's a living memory bank, a way to remember ancestors, to give thanks to the land for its gifts, to strengthen the bonds within the community. It acts like a lifeline. It's meditation, it's narrative, it's spiritual practice, all rolled into one ancient, incredibly powerful vocal tradition.
That's truly profound. It makes me wonder then about their wider belief system. How do they see the world around them if they connect to it so directly through something like joiking? What are the roots of their spirituality?
Well, the Sami people traditionally hold a deeply animistic worldview,
Animistic, meaning.
meaning they believe that everything in nature, not just animals, but rivers, ancient trees, dramatic rock formations, even particular stones, possesses its own spirit, its own consciousness in a way.
Everything has a spirit.
Yes. And this isn't just a quaint or poetic idea for them. It's a fundamental principle that guides how they interact with the world every single day. So, for instance, when they hunt a reindeer or maybe cut down a birch tree for firewood or carving, they don't just take it. Traditionally, there are rituals. They might ask permission from the spirit of the animal or the tree. They offer thanks for its sacrifice. There's this constant, respectful dialogue happening, a reciprocity with the natural world that really underpins their whole existence.
It sounds like they're living with the land as if it's an equal, a sentient partner rather than just living on it, taking what they need without asking. It feels, well, frankly, a much more sustainable and beautiful way to think about our place in the whole ecosystem.
That's precisely the heart of it. And their traditional religion, before the influence of outside forces, also features spiritual guides or leaders known as Noedi.
Noedi, shamans.
Yes, essentially shamans. These Noedis were intermediaries, bridges between the human world and the spirit world. They could communicate with the spirits of nature, they performed healing ceremonies, they led important community rituals, often conducted out into the open sky. And they frequently used sacred drums.
Drums, what were they like?
Usually made from reindeer skin stretched tight over a wooden frame. But they weren't just for rhythm. These drums were often meticulously painted with complex symbols.
Symbols of what?
Symbols that depicted, well, maps of the spirit world.
Maps of the spirit world, wow. That sounds like something out of a fantasy novel. It's captivating to imagine.
It does sound fantastical, doesn't it? But it was very real, and it served a profound purpose, born from the very real needs of survival and meaning-making. Just imagine living in those polar regions. The sun disappears for months. The landscape can feel overwhelmingly vast, powerful, even dangerous. In conditions like that, you need more than just physical warmth and food to survive. You need meaning. You need a deep, felt sense that the land isn't just cold and indifferent. You need to feel it's watching over you, perhaps protecting you, if you show it the proper respect. This intricate belief system, with the Noedi and the drums and the spirits and everything, it provided that deep sense of security, of belonging, of purpose, in what could otherwise be an incredibly challenging, even terrifying environment.
That makes so much sense now. It explains why a particular river bend or a specific ancient stone could be genuinely sacred to them. Everything needed to feel alive, connected, because being truly alone, feeling isolated in that vastness, could be literally deadly. A deep spiritual connection wouldn't just be comforting. It would be essential for survival, psychologically and maybe even physically.
You've absolutely hit on a crucial point there. When your very existence depends so utterly on the environment for everything, food, shelter, warmth, that every element of that environment naturally becomes vitally important and therefore sacred. This reverence shaped everything, even their understanding of time.
How so? Their sense of time.
Well, their traditional calendar wasn't based on fixed dates on a page or the ticking of a clock. It followed the natural rhythms around them.
Like the seasons.
Exactly. The migrations of the reindeer herds, the cycles of the moon, the patterns of the winds, the freezing and thawing of the rivers. They didn't live by the clock.
Yeah.
They lived by the mood of the land. The constant question wasn't, what time is it? But more like, what is the land doing now and how do I dance with it?
And how do I dance with it? That's beautiful. Harmony, not control. And this dance with the land, how far back does it go? How ancient are the Sami?
Oh, incredibly ancient. Archaeological evidence, things like settlement sites, tools, rock carvings, it provides compelling proof of Sami presence in these Arctic lands stretching back over 5,000 years.
5,000 years.
At least. Imagine that. Before the borders of modern Norway, Sweden, Finland, Russia were even drawn on a map. Before those nations as we know them even existed, the Sami were already here. They were fishing these lakes, herding their reindeer, singing their joiks, developing this incredible way of life perfectly suited to these northern lands. They have an unbroken connection to this place that goes back millennia. It's a staggering testament to their endurance, their adaptability.
So even in the deepest, longest darkness, they found their own light. Even amidst the relentless snow and ice, they found spirit, they found meaning, their resilience in just maintaining that spiritual core, that connection through countless generations. It's truly incredible.
It is. It's a profound testament to their inner strength.
Mm-hmm.
And as you say, their spirituality, it isn't about massive stone temples or loud public preaching. It's much quieter, more intimate. It's found in the whisper of snowflakes falling on snow,
Mm-hmm.
in the haunting howl of a wolf far off in the distance, or maybe even in feeling the faint, almost imperceptible heartbeat of the earth deep beneath the frozen ground in winter. It's a spirituality built on careful observation, on listening, on deep personal relationship with the living world.
Listening to you describe it, it feels like stepping into another world entirely. One that feels profoundly ancient, yes, but also incredibly grounded, honest. It really makes me see the Sámi people not as, some distant or exotic group, but as deeply fundamentally human and immensely inspiring. Their life might seem simple in some ways from the outside, but it sounds incredibly rich, profound, and thoughtful.
That's the real beauty of it, I think. Their lives are layered with meaning and purpose. They show us a different path, perhaps, to human flourishing, one that's deeply intertwined with respecting and living in harmony with the natural world.
You've painted such a vivid picture of their individual lives, their spiritual connection to this vast land, Sápmi. But I'm really curious now about their social world. How did they organize themselves in such a presumably tight-knit community facing these challenges? How are things structured? What's their tribe like? Who leads? How are decisions made?
That's an excellent question, and it really takes us to the core of how their communities function. You see, the Sámi people, they may not have built huge cities or commanded vast armies in the way history often focuses on,
Right.
but they developed something arguably much stronger and more enduring: an incredibly resilient and adaptive community structure. Traditionally, their society is built around groups called Saidas.
Saidas. Okay, what is a Saida exactly?
Think of a Saida as a kind of local group, often based around family ties, but also including others. They traditionally work together, pooling their resources and labor, especially for tasks like reindeer herding, which often requires cooperation, but also for fishing, hunting, and generally managing the land they use collectively.
So it's like a cooperative model, almost like an extended family unit, but focused on working together for everyone's survival and well-being.
That's a really good way to think about it. The Saida system operates on a foundation of mutual trust, deep respect for traditional knowledge passed down through generations, and a shared, intricate understanding of their specific environment, where the best pastures are, where the fish run, how the weather patterns work.
And how are decisions made within a Saida? Is there a chief or...
Not really in the sense of a single, all-powerful chief. Decisions that affect the group are typically made through extensive discussion. Consensus is really important. Everyone gets a say, but particular weight is given to the elders, those with the most experience and accumulated wisdom.
Experience matters most.
Exactly. While certain individuals might naturally provide guidance because of their skills or knowledge, maybe someone is a particularly skilled hunter or knows the reindeer migration routes intimately, there isn't a rigid, imposed hierarchy like you might find in, say, feudal Europe. Leadership in the Saida tends to be fluid. It emerges organically from those who demonstrate the deepest understanding of the land, the animals, and the collective needs of the community.
That sounds, well, remarkably democratic, actually.
Yeah.
And profoundly respectful. Leadership earned through wisdom and experience, not just handed down by title or enforced by power. It seems incredibly grounded.
It is very grounded. And holding these communities together, what makes them cohesive, is a powerful, though often unspoken, concept. Honor. Yes.
Yeah.
In traditional Sami life, keeping your word is paramount. Showing deep respect not just for other people, but for the land, for the animals you depend on, protecting others in your community, sharing resources. These aren't just suggestions. They're the defining characteristics of what makes a good, respected person within the Saida.
So strong social expectations, but based on respect and reciprocity.
Precisely. There's immense social value placed on upholding these principles. It's not necessarily about punishment, but about maintaining harmony and trust. Because the community thrives, literally survives, because of this shared code of conduct. There's also a very deep respect for elders, for their knowledge and experience, and importantly, a strong emphasis on resolving conflicts peacefully, not aggressively. The goal is always to restore balance within the group, not to escalate disputes or establish dominance.
It really sounds like an almost idyllic, self-regulating, sustainable system, rooted in respect. But The outside world, history tells us, hasn't always treated the Sami with that same level of respect, has it? They faced enormous pressures, terrible injustices from other nations, other cultures.
Voice becomes softer, more serious. Unfortunately, yes, that's a very painful, very significant part of their story. The Sámi people have endured centuries of oppression. And it's crucial to understand this wasn't just about conquest in the military sense. It was often a systematic, deliberate effort aimed at, well, at cultural elimination.
Elimination, that's
Right.
strong.
Yes. Their history is deeply scarred by persistent attempts from surrounding nation-states to diminish their identity, to seize their ancestral lands, and fundamentally to erase their unique way of life.
That's truly heartbreaking to even contemplate. Can you tell us more about this darker chapter? When did it really begin?
We can trace major pressures back to the 17th and 18th centuries, maybe even earlier in some areas.
Yeah.
This was when Christian missionaries, primarily from Sweden and Norway at first, started moving deeper into Sápmi.
Okay.
And they looked at Sami spirituality, the animistic beliefs we talked about, the joiking, the use of sacred drums by the Noeti, and they saw it as pagan, as primitive, as dangerous, and needing to be eradicated.
So their goal was conversion, to get them to adopt Christianity.
It went far beyond just offering conversion. The goal was often to systematically dismantle and erase Sami culture entirely. Those sacred drums, the ones painted with maps of the spirit world.
Yes.
They were confiscated, hundreds of them, and publicly burned, often in large symbolic ceremonies designed to show the power of the church over these pagan practices. The Joik, that unique vocal tradition, it was banned in churches, actively demonized, sometimes called the devil's work.
Banning their song.
Yes. And perhaps the most devastating tactic employed over a long period was the forced removal of Sami children from their families.
Oh, no.
They were sent away to state-run boarding schools, sometimes very far from home. And in these schools, they were strictly forbidden from speaking their own Sami languages.
Forbidden? What happened if they did?
They often faced harsh punishments, physical punishment, humiliation. The explicit aim was to assimilate them, to make them Norwegian or Swedish or Finnish, and to sever their connection to their families, their language, their culture, their spiritual roots. It wasn't just assimilation. It was a deliberate, often brutal attempt at cultural destruction.
That's unimaginable trauma. For a child, for a family, for a whole people. Being punished simply for speaking your mother tongue. It really is a form of cultural genocide, isn't it? Designed to break their spirit, dismantle their identity from the inside out.
Quietly. Precisely. And the deep wounds from those generations, the intergenerational trauma, it continues to echo through Sami communities today. The effects are still profoundly felt. And the oppression, it wasn't just cultural and spiritual, it was also very much economic and territorial.
Right. You mentioned their connection to the land is everything. So losing territory, that must have been utterly devastating, like losing a part of their soul.
It was. And it continues to be a major issue. Starting centuries ago, but accelerating significantly in the 19th and 20th centuries, Sami lands were systematically taken by the surrounding states, Norway, Sweden, Finland, and also Russia.
Why? What do they want the land for?
All sorts of reasons, usually framed as progress or development. Timber extraction from the northern forests, mining for iron ore and other minerals, agricultural expansion, even though the Arctic soil is poor. Sometimes military bases or testing grounds.
And the impact on the Sami.
Catastrophic. It meant the loss of vital reindeer grazing routes that their herds had used for centuries. It meant losing access to traditional fishing lakes and hunting grounds. It often meant the desecration or destruction of sacred sites, specific mountains, stones, groves that were integral to their spiritual life and identity.
That's such a profound violation. It's theft, not just of land, but of identity, of history, of spirituality itself. When your entire being is so interwoven with the land, taking that land takes a piece of who you are.
Sighs deeply. Yes, and in Soviet Russia, the repression took on particularly harsh forms. Entire Sami communities on the Kola Peninsula were forcibly relocated, often onto collective farms. This completely shattered their traditional nomadic herding lifestyle.
Forced relocation.
Yes. And their traditional practices, their language, their cultural expressions, they were actively suppressed, sometimes banned outright, labeled as counter-revolutionary or remnants of an undesirable past. Tragically, during Stalin's purges in the 1930s, many Sami elders and community leaders were arrested, executed, or sent to the gulags, often simply for trying to maintain their beliefs, for speaking their language, for just being Sami. These were overt acts of political and cultural annihilation.
I genuinely had no idea it reached that level of severity. Execution. That's a truly dark and largely untold chapter of European history.
It is. And these histories were often actively suppressed, silenced for decades.
Mm-hmm.
Even for Sami people who emigrated perhaps to North America from Norway or Finland in the late 19th or early 20th century.
Yes.
There was often immense pressure to hide their identity, to just blend in as Scandinavian. Being Sami was frequently viewed as something lesser, something primitive, maybe even something to be ashamed of. So there was this pervasive societal push to conform, to shed their unique cultural identity just to gain acceptance in their new homes.
And fast forward to today. We're in 2025. Are Sámi people still facing discrimination in their own ancestral lands in modern, progressive Nordic countries? It seems hard to believe after all this time.
Yes. Unfortunately, the struggle continues. While things have certainly improved in many ways compared to the darkest periods, discrimination hasn't vanished. Many Sámi individuals still report experiencing mockery, prejudice, negative stereotypes.
Sure.
Yes. There's often still a lack of accurate representation in mainstream media and in school curricula. And critically, they frequently feel excluded from political decisions that directly impact their traditional lands and their way of life decisions about mining, forestry, wind power development, infrastructure projects, even when these decisions are supposedly made for the greater good of the nation.
So they're not always at the table when decisions about their lands are made.
Often not, or their input isn't given sufficient weight. On top of this, they face huge modern threats. Climate change is hitting the Arctic disproportionately hard.
How does that affect them?
It profoundly impacts reindeer herding. Unpredictable weather patterns, thawing permafrost, changing snow conditions, ice that's unsafe to cross it disrupts migration routes, affects the availability of lichen, the reindeer's main food source. And then there's the pressure from new large-scale developments, massive wind farms, new highways, mines often planned right across essential traditional grazing areas or migration corridors. It fragments the landscape, disturbs the animals. Their way of life, already made fragile by historical pressures, is now under threat like never before from multiple directions at once.
But knowing what we've learned about their resilience, about the Sami spirit, they can't have just passively accepted all this. Surely there has to be a story of fighting back, of reclaiming their identity, of incredible strength.
Tone shifts to hopeful, proud. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. Despite everything, centuries of relentless pressure of attempts to erase them, the Sami spirit has proven astonishingly resilient, starting significantly in the 1970s, but with roots going back further, a powerful and truly beautiful revival movement began to spark across all of Sami. Yes, a strong, active assertion of their identity, their culture, their language, and their fundamental rights as an indigenous people.
That's fantastic news. What does this resurgence actually look like? On the ground, what are the tangible signs of this revival?
Oh, it's multifaceted and really inspiring. For one thing, in Norway, Sweden, and Finland, there are now official Sami parliaments.
Parliaments? Elected bodies?
Yes, elected by Sami people themselves. These parliaments serve as vital voices for Sami concerns. They work tirelessly to protect and promote the culture, to advocate for land and resource rights, and to represent Sami interests within the national governments. It's a huge step forward in terms of political recognition.
That's significant. What else?
Language revitalization is key. Sami language schools and kindergartens have opened, giving children the precious chance to learn their ancestral tongues, languages that were once forbidden, punished.
Giving the language back to the children.
Exactly. And children are learning and performing joiks again, reconnecting with those ancient spiritual songs of their ancestors, ensuring that this unique art form doesn't just survive, but thrives.
Wonderful.
And it's not just about preserving the past exactly as it was. Sami youth are incredibly creative. They're mixing their ancient culture with modern forms. You might hear a traditional joik layered over contemporary hip-hop beats, for example.
Really? Joik and hip-hop?
Absolutely. They're finding dynamic, innovative ways to express their Sami heritage in the 21st century. We're also seeing Sami designers making waves internationally, taking traditional elements like the gakti, its patterns and colors, and reinterpreting them for modern fashion runways. They're bringing their unique aesthetic and cultural storytelling to a much wider, appreciative global audience.
That's more than just survival then, isn't it? It's a vibrant flowering, a powerful reclamation of identity, of artistic expression. It sounds incredibly inspiring.
It truly is. But what's striking is that it tends to be a gentle resurgence, not an aggressive or militant one. It seems deeply rooted in those core Sami values we discussed: community, connection to language, deep respect for the land, honor. It's not about seeking domination or revenge for the past. It feels more like remembering, reclaiming, steadfastly, quietly, preserving their unique culture against all odds. It's a quiet strength, a profound determination.
And how are the governments reacting now? In Norway, Sweden, Finland, are they genuinely supportive of this revival, or is it still an uphill battle for recognition and rights?
Thoughtful pause.
I
It's,
can have.
well, it's a mixed picture, honestly. There's definitely been progress, significant progress in some areas. Legal protections for Sami rights do exist now. There's a growing, though sometimes slow and reluctant, official recognition of their status as Europe's only indigenous people and acknowledgement of some of the historical injustices.
That's positive.
But many Sami still express feeling like outsiders in their own ancestral lands. They often feel their voices aren't genuinely heard or given enough weight in national debates and decision-making processes that directly impact their livelihoods, their culture, their future, especially concerning land use. So while the legal frameworks might be improving, the practical implementation, the feeling of true inclusion and partnership, can still fall short.
So more work to be done.
Definitely. There's a call for more genuine inclusion, not as some kind of favor or act of charity, but as a fundamental matter of respect, of recognition. These nations really should take immense pride in having the Sami as an integral ancient part of their national heritage, their culture, their history, their deep ecological wisdom. These are invaluable assets, not just for the Nordic region, but for the whole world.
It's hard to understand why these nations wouldn't wholeheartedly celebrate a people who, as you say, sing with reindeer, whose clothes tell thousand-year-old stories, who navigate snow and ice as if it were air. Their contribution to Europe's cultural tapestry is so unique, so rich, so profound.
Indeed. Their strength, as we've seen, isn't loud or aggressive, it's quiet. But it's as enduring as the ancient stones of Sapmi, and as unyielding, in its own way, as the Arctic wind. It's a strength born from that deep connection, that resilience, that has allowed them not just to endure, but somehow to keep flourishing against incredible odds for thousands upon thousands of years.
We've journeyed across Sami land, we've felt the weight of their history, both the beauty and the pain, and we've even heard the echo of the Joiks carried on the wind. But let's bring it right up to the present moment. Where are the Sami people today? What does modern Sami life actually look like here in the 21st century?
Well, today, the Sami population, estimated somewhere between 80,000 and 100,000 people, lives across those four countries: Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Russia. And their lives are diverse. Many absolutely still live very traditional lives, particularly in the more remote areas. They continue to herd reindeer, fish in the pristine northern waters, practice traditional crafts, and sing their ancient joiks. Their lives remain deeply connected to the land, the seasons, the rhythms of their herds, often involving those seasonal migrations we talked about, living in close harmony with nature.
Still following the reindeer.
Many still are. But at the very same time, you'll find Sami individuals living and thriving in modern towns and cities. They're attending universities, getting degrees, working in all sorts of contemporary professions: teachers, doctors, engineers, artists, tech entrepreneurs, you name it. They might be designing apps or performing their music, traditional or modern, on big international stages.
So they're not confined to one single reality. It sounds like they're successfully bridging two worlds, being simultaneously modern and deeply traditional. That must create some fascinating cultural dynamics.
It really does. And that's perhaps the most extraordinary part of their story today. You might genuinely encounter a Sami teenager expertly scrolling through TikTok on their phone with one hand. While with the other hand, they're meticulously carving a complex traditional pattern onto a reindeer antler knife handle using skills passed down for generations. They demonstrate mastery of both ancient crafts and modern technology, often seamlessly. Their culture isn't some static thing frozen in time, preserved under glass in a museum.
No, it sounds very alive.
It's incredibly alive. It's a living, breathing, flowing entity. It continually evolves, adapts, incorporates new influences, but, and this is crucial, it never forgets its roots. It's this vibrant, dynamic culture that shows incredible flexibility, and that word again, resilience.
But you did hint earlier that this duality, this balancing act between tradition and modernity, it also presents ongoing challenges, especially perhaps for younger Sami people today. What are some of those difficulties they face?
Voice becomes gently serious again. You're right, it's not always easy. While there's immense pride in their heritage, Young Sami often find themselves walking a kind of tightrope. They're balancing their deep cultural roots, their unique identity, with the constant pressures to fit into the mainstream societies around them, societies that are often heavily westernized, with very different values.
What's the biggest challenge, would you say?
Language loss remains a huge concern. Despite the revitalization efforts, many younger Sami are losing fluency in their ancestral languages: North Sami, Lule Sami, Skolt Sami, and others. There are several distinct Sami languages.
Losing their language.
Yes, and it's often not really by choice. It happens because the mainstream national languages, Norwegian, Swedish, Finnish, Russian, are just so dominant everywhere, in schools, in media, in public life. This can create a kind of cultural silence, a gap that can slowly erode identity over time. And as we mentioned, despite progress, misunderstandings, stereotypes, and sometimes outright ignorance about Sami culture and history still persist in the broader society. This can lead to ongoing feelings of being othered, of marginalization, even prejudice.
Despite those very real challenges, it feels like their collective voice is undeniably getting louder, stronger. This cultural resurgence you described, it seems unstoppable in many ways.
Enthusiastically.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It is unstoppable, and it's profoundly inspiring to witness. We're seeing Sami podcasters reaching global audiences, sharing their unique perspectives and stories. Sami activists are on the front lines, passionately fighting for indigenous rights and environmental protection in national and international forums. We see those fashion icons bringing Sami aesthetics and traditional craftsmanship onto the world's most prestigious runways. Authors are writing compelling new novels, poetry, children's books in Sami languages, and Sami leaders are emerging as powerful voices in the crucial discussions around climate change, advocating fiercely for Arctic preservation and sustainable practices, drawing on millennia of traditional ecological knowledge.
Wow. So across so many fields.
Across so many fields. Their collective voice is definitely growing. It's proud, it's brave, and it's beautifully grounded in that ancient wisdom, that deep connection to the earth. They are making sure the world hears their unique perspectives, understands the ongoing challenges they face, but also, importantly, recognizes the invaluable wisdom and resilience they offer to all of us.
Quietly, almost reflectively. It's really quite amazing when you stop and think about it. That a people who have survived, even thrived, in some of the absolute coldest, darkest corners of our planet, might actually be the ones holding knowledge that could warm the soul of the entire world right now. They seem to embody an ancient wisdom that feels more relevant, more urgent today than perhaps ever before.
I believe they absolutely do. The Sami experience, their worldview, it teaches us, and maybe reminds us, of some fundamental truths that perhaps we, in our fast-paced, modern, often disconnected world, have started to forget.
Such as
That land is not just property. It's not just a commodity to be bought, sold, divided up, exploited. It's a living, sacred entity, a relative even, something to be respected, listened to, cherished, cared for. That clothes can be more than just fabric stitched together. They can be living memory. They can carry the stories, the identity, the heritage of generations. That songs, like the Joik, can be older than war, connecting us to something deeper, more peaceful, more essential in the human experience. And maybe, most profoundly, that sometimes just surviving quietly, gracefully, with unwavering dignity, holding on to who you are against all odds, is the boldest, most powerful revolution of all. Their continued existence, their thriving culture, their very being. It's a powerful statement in itself.
voice shifts slightly, becoming more direct, perhaps a touch playful but with serious undertones. So here's a thought maybe for you, our listener, to carry away from this deep dive. Think about our lives. We live in warm houses, centrally heated. We navigate with GPS telling us every turn. We drive on paved roads. We rarely truly see a sky full of stars without light pollution. But just imagine for a moment. Imagine if we lost all of that. The heating, the tech, the easy travel. Would we still remember who we fundamentally are? Could you find your way through a blizzard with only your own breath for warmth and maybe just the faint inherited memory of a reindeer's path to guide you?
Smiling, voice warm and sincere. That, I think, in essence, is the real Sami question for the rest of us. It's not really where are they going? It's much more what have we forgotten?
Thank you so much for joining us on this journey, this deep dive into the world of the Sami. If this story moved you, if it sparked something, a flicker of curiosity, maybe some understanding, some respect, please share it. Tell someone you know about the Sámi people. Let's all help make absolutely sure that the quiet, powerful, ancient whisper of the North is never, ever completely lost in the overwhelming noise of the modern world.
Until next time, stay warm, stay curious, and always remember to honor the quiet wisdoms wherever you may find them.